by 30. So you're limited in what you could do. So for coaches out there as well that have 8 goalkeepers, 9 goalkeepers in a session, and you've got 30 by 30, there's tons of stuff you can do. You just got to think about the game and try and be creative. But for me, if you ask Carl Spratt, so again, Carl is our second team coach, but he's a goalkeeper coach, but he's on the field with me as much as possible.
Yeah.
Because we have a good relationship, and it helps to cultivate that vertical integration that we talked about before.
Yeah.
My first question to him after a session is, what did you think about that? What do you think about that warm-up? How could we change that? That didn't work. What would you do differently? Because at the moment that I don't do that, then I stop growing as a coach. And people have to be able to say, well, and using the right terminology so you don't come across in the wrong way. So that, again, that's human interaction. They have to be able to say, what would have happened if you moved the mannequins 3 yards closer to the goal? Because I felt like there was a lot of these actions versus these actions. So again, having that feedback, I feel, is critically important for us to grow and develop as human beings. But then also being able to give the feedback in the right way.
Yeah.
Is a tool.
Absolutely. And you were talking about body language, and I was talking to Dan Abrahams about this. It says, your body language can dictate what you want out of your players.
Oh, 100%.
More so than even your voice.
Oh, my word.
Because if you're saying something, but the body language says something different, you're sending mixed signals to that player.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I believe in goalkeeper. So again, and here's the other thing. I just want to add this, Michael. These sessions are presentations. They're not coaching sessions. And we lose sight of that as well, because that's important.
That's true, yeah.
So they're not complete sessions. They are thoughts, they are ideas, they are presentations for people to look at.
They're just pictures.
Yeah. So, and again, people jump on it because it's, they think it's a coaching session.
I think that's one of the scary things too, in regards. And I don't want to focus on just negatives. I want to focus on positives as well too. But a lot of coaches out there who I see them in their notebooks are taking presentations and bringing them back to their teams.
Yeah. So it's not the complete picture.
Yeah.
So it is like the whole environment is very interesting. But again, for us to grow, we've got to be able to take a picture. And this is again, we've talked about this. This is coaching. Take a picture and say, I wonder how that would work with my group.
So speaking of that, I want to talk about this because one of the things that this is a conversation I've been having throughout this entire week, and it's been giving me thought. Getting mic'd is becoming very trendy. I see a lot of coaches now on social media miking themselves up. That's great. I love that. I love the fact that I'm getting context to what the heck you're doing as opposed to just seeing a picture.
Right.
I want to see more players mic'd because I don't know what their thoughts are. I don't know how they're being affected in the session. I want to know what that question was that player asked, as opposed to just having it regurgitated back by the coach. What are your thoughts on that?
Number one, I think that there are logistics involved in miking a player.
Yeah.
You mentioned body language,
mm-hmm.
and I skipped and went off in a tangent, so I apologize.
That's okay.
You can tell the impact of a coach by the player's body language. A lot of so if your presence as a coach, the way you deliver as a coach, and again, presenting is different, but the way you deliver as a coach on the field, your energy, enthusiasm is can help players in their body language. You don't need to mic up a player.
Okay.
In fact, you often wouldn't want to because you might have to
bleep a lot of stuff out.
But you can tell in their reaction. You can tell in the body language. I know, for example, and I know that he won't mind me saying this. I have a 34-year-old goalkeeper, Joe Bendick, very, very accomplished goalkeeper. I know based on body language whether it's going to be a good session for me or it's going to be, I'm going to have to try and pull more out of him. 9 times out of 10, it's a good session. But there are things in life that affect players, and whether it's professional players or young players, school, food, parents, well, you name it. There's thousands of things, relationships. So as coaches, our our ability to impact their body language and their train of thought is massively, massively important.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point in regards to, because I can't tell you how many times I've watched videos of sessions and I see the goalkeepers, their hands on their hips or their shrugged shoulders forward,
Yeah.
or head down or whatever, and I go, well, these don't look like people that want to be there.
Yeah.
Especially at the youth level.
Yeah. Or standing in lines.
Yeah.
Like 5 deep.
Yeah.
5, 6 deep, and you're thinking, okay, well, so here's a story for you, and,
Yeah.
and imagine this,
Yeah.
because I had to walk away. So I'm watching a session. This is very recently. I'm watching a session, and there are 2 goalkeeper groups going, and they'll know who they are if they listen to the podcast. So I'm in a different country, and there are 2 goalkeepers groups training. One group training here. Another organization, one organization here, one organization there. This organization had 4 coaches, and they had exercises that incorporated all the goalkeepers most of the time, whether they were serving. So there's very little time where they weren't involved in action. This group had 4 goalkeeper coaches as well, 8 goalkeepers per coach, 1 in the goal. The rest were serving at different points and rotating, so they were in the goal 1 every 8 times. I watched some of this. There was this one kid who had yellow shoes, so it was easy for me to track, even with my age and my bad eyes. So I watched. I started my watch. So I'm like, this doesn't look right. I started my watch. It was so in an hour-long session, he did 3 minutes of abs on the side while other people were in the goal, and he was and then he was rotated in to be a server. He served. Then the groups rotated. He became a server on this end and serve. It was 18 minutes and 45 seconds before he got into the goal. Plus the 3 minutes of abs. All right, so you're talking now about 22 minutes total where this kid wasn't in goal. The first action he gets is a through ball. Player takes a touch towards him. He doesn't make the right decision. The ball goes in the goal. Coach, stop. And now chastises him for making the wrong decision. This kid hasn't been in goal for 22 minutes.
Yeah.
Think about, and I had to walk away, because as a parent of that child, that's a disservice to the child. So in our environments, when we're working with the kids, working with whoever it may be, and the body language of this kid when he was in there as well is like, oh, really? Okay, let's go get water. Really? So body language speaks massively. So as coaches, we have a responsibility to really give our all to these goalkeepers, to the youth, because that is where the grassroots, that is where the most important aspects of the game need to be taught, because we're not doing it.
So maybe it's not language specifically, but there's specific body cues that we really need to be mindful of.
Yeah.
And being able to change and adjust what we're doing based on that.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I think I'm just thinking just out loud here, like, sessions I've done in the past where it's really hot out or something like that, and if I start recognizing players, slumping over on the knees, that sort of thing, okay, well, that's a cue that we should probably take a break, because they're not here, because they're focusing on the fact that they're thirsty, it's hot, that sort of a thing. Right. So is it something like something as simple as that, you would say? Or
yeah, but again, reps, the number of reps, do they need 5 reps? What about if you rotated every 2 reps or every 3 reps, and whatever the actions were, so everyone was involved more? What if we asked questions of people that weren't necessarily in the goal? What did you see there? Sarah, did you see what she did? What do you think of that? What if we engage them in different ways?
Yeah.
So it's, again, from a goalkeeper coaching point of view, we stay focused on the goalkeeper in goal, rightly so. But when you're working with a group, how do you engage everyone that isn't in the goal? And it's so difficult with young kids, isn't it?
It's very difficult. And that's like when I see people like Jill and Maria and what they do at TKI, and just my head explodes, because it's like, I don't know how you got all these kids on the same page to be engaging all at the same time. Not just serving, but engaging all at the same time. Because I watch her sessions, and Maria as well too. And it's like they're not just serving, but then all of a sudden, then the play is coming back at them. So now there's an action on them. So we just need to put. I think maybe just I don't want to say lazy, but we just need to put more thought into it, put more effort into it.
Yeah. And then the other thing is when you look at the game and look at what things actually we actually need to do.
From the United Soccer Coaches Convention in beautiful Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, I'm Michael Magid with a very well-refreshed '99 World Cup winner, Saskia Weber. You're looking like you had a real just relaxing last few days. A quiet night.
Didn't do much.
Yeah, you didn't do
watched
much.
Some TV, just hung out.
Just a little bit of
little bit of food. Yeah, it was pretty chill.
It was good. It was good. It was definitely been a very chill time. Speaking of that, we have somebody who's had a very chill time this last few days as well too. We have Olivia Sekany, who just finished her career at the University of Washington. Congratulations on a very successful collegiate career. I think, Saskia, a lot of people don't understand this out there. Young goalkeepers out there. The Pac-12 is one of the best conferences in the country, and I think a lot of times there's an East Coast bias, and they don't realize. What you mean? The level is ridiculous.
No, it absolutely is. I mean, in my opinion, the Pac-12 and the ACC are the two best conferences in the country. Period. Yeah. And the Big Ten can get mad or whatever, but they are. You have to look at the amount of teams, the level of competition, how well they do in the tournament, the players that they get, and also look at go ahead and look at the draft in itself. The ACC had, I think, the most last night. The Pac-12, over the years, they produced the most pro players.
Yeah. And obviously, Olivia, yourself, playing, and we're going to get into this topic, guys, which I think is going to be very fascinating for everybody, and that's preparing after your collegiate career is over. Like, what the heck do you do now? But, the fact that you played in the Pac-12 against these elite players, youth national team players, that sort of thing, there's no better training for a goalkeeper than that.
No, absolutely not. And, that's one of the reasons that I wanted to play in the Pac-12 going in. I've always had pro aspirations since I was a kid. And I knew that the Pac-12 was going to provide me the opportunity to play against some of the top players that then would ultimately also go on to play professionally. So that was definitely a big draw when I was looking at schools during the recruiting process to go to the Pac-12.
I love what you just said right there because, Saskia, this is something that you brought up when you were at UCLA. You said a lot of times for people who said, you're better off going somewhere and you're playing against the UCLAs as opposed to coming here and being a 3 or a 4 and might not necessarily, getting the chance.
Well, I mean, it depends on what your aspirations,
Okay.
and especially we're also talking about a goalkeeper position.
Yeah.
So, you're not getting subbed.
Yeah.
So if you're coming in as a freshman, you might be redshirting that year, sitting. You might not. If we look at a Niku who came into UCLA and she didn't redshirt and she didn't play. And so, but that's fine. I mean, eventually Niku will go pro, but it's kind of a give and take. I don't think the levels so far that you're so far of different that you're not getting experience playing for like a UCLA against the Washington.
Yeah.
I think the games can go either way, and that's why the Pac-12 is so good.
Yeah.
So whether you go to a UCLA, a Washington, and Arizona, or something in the Pac-12, you're still gonna get play.
Yeah. And by the way, Liv, feel free to step in any time whatsoever. You don't have to wait for a question from us or anything like that. Yeah. But I want to talk to you a little bit about this for maybe some young, kids out there who are listening who aren't familiar with your career and everything like that. You obviously were a youth national team player, then made the decision to go to Cal. And then fortunately, the environment wasn't what you wanted for your collegiate experience. So you made the transfer to UW. Was that a difficult choice for you?
Transferring was definitely difficult. I mean, again, I knew that I wanted to go pro for a really, really long time. And I knew that the environment that I was in at Cal was not going to allow me to become the best version of myself that would get me to that level. So it was really difficult because I did have a lot of friends in Berkeley. I really liked living in Berkeley. I liked the school a lot. But ultimately, soccer came first for me. So I made the decision to transfer, and it ended up being one of the best decisions that I made. And I had a fantastic experience in the University of Washington and really enjoyed every minute that I was there and gained so much valuable experience. And, I think that transferring gave me a really great perspective and a new appreciation for college soccer and the environment. And as much as it was a difficult path and not at all one that I would have predicted or set out for myself the last time I was on this podcast when I was 16 and had just that girl would not have anticipated where we've ended up. It's one that, I wouldn't have traded for the world, because I think that it really made me stronger and more versatile and more adaptable. And I had to overcome a lot that I think has just made me a stronger person and a stronger player.
Yeah, I think this goes back to what I was saying. When you are picking a school and stuff like that, you have to be, and you do have these aspirations. I mean, obviously, Angelina was there. So, I think the decision to go to Washington was the right one, obviously. And the playing time and the experience and everything was right. Although hard, it was the right one. And now, you will be going pro. And that is going to happen. So none of us doubt that whatsoever, and I think that when you are, it's the same thing when you are a goalkeeper. If your kid's out there and picking colleges, and you do have to look at, well, am I going in and is the other goalkeeper a senior? Am I a freshman? Am I getting groomed to take that spot? Or they're two freshmen in a sense.
For sure. And on that note too, I mean, when I committed and when I got to Cal, that was very much the sense that I had and that I was given, was that, I was under Emily Boyd, fantastic goalkeeper my freshman year. I redshirted my freshman year. And I was told that, that was going to be, I was going to be moving into that spot. And then, the picture changes. Yeah. And, things just in general, I mean, Ange came in, but then also too, I mean, before she even got there, things ended up looking a lot different than I had anticipated. And it wasn't the environment that I was told that I was going to be going into. And so I think that, you need to look at all those things for sure. But then you also have to understand that it's not a perfect process and things can change. And I think that's why the transfer portal is such a valuable resource for people, because the other thing is too, especially when I was going through it, and I think it's a little bit different now, and I'm really grateful for the kids that are going through the recruiting process now and they're doing things a little bit later. But when I was getting recruited, I was the last person to commit to Cal in my class, and I committed before my junior year started. And so most of those girls for the top Pac-12, ACC, Power 5 schools were committing, some of them end of 8th grade year, freshman year. It was just insane. And asking a 13, 14-year-old kid
to know where they want to go
to where they want to go to college.
I say that all the time. I'm we don't even know if they're going to want to play soccer by the time they graduate high school.
It's nuts.
They haven't even, I say that to Mike, I'm these kids haven't even gone into high school yet. Things change. Their likes, their needs, their bodies, everything.
That's what 4.5 hours doing an NWSL draft can do for you.
She's a little hoarse.
Just a little horse. Just a little horse. The craziest thing is Lori Lindsay was still going last night. We were done, wrapped up. The show was wrapped up, and she was still talking to people. It was insanity. But
the portal is important, and you look at how it's helped benefit players. Look at a Penelope Hawking and stuff transferring from USC to Penn State, and how that helped her. And I think it really did benefit her making that change. And that's hard.
Absolutely.
That's doing it in your final year as well. You've spent all those years in school. You have your friends. You've established that, but then putting your soccer and your future first and making that decision. It was a great decision for her.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Liv, I want to ask you this. Obviously, I don't want you to go back to a dark place or anything like that, but I think it's important for a lot of young players out there listening. The situation at Cal was not optimal, not just from a playing standpoint, but also from a culture standpoint. And that's one of the reasons you made that decision to leave to head to University of Washington.
Yeah, it was. It's really sad. It's really unfortunate because I'm not alone in having had that experience, and Cal was not a singular event. It's a really widespread problem, and I've lost count of how many players from different schools all over the country have come up to me and said, because myself and some of the other players did end up going public after we exhausted pretty much every other resource to try to solve the issue in-house. And I've had so many players come up to me and just say thank you for doing what you did, because I felt so isolated and invalidated, and I thought that what I was going through was not the norm, or was a singular event, and it's not, and it's really unfortunate that it is that way. But yeah, there was a lot of not great things happening, and I'm not sure how much.
No. You don't need to go into more detail than that.
I
No.
just think that,
No,
but
absolutely.
I think that still having that strength that you've proved, and to be able to pull yourself out of it, and come out on the better side of it, you know, and that's just gonna help you in your career, in life, and everything. You know, totally.
I mean, look, I think one of the things that is so important right now, Liv, and I think, first off, I don't want to say you were like a trailblazer or a pioneer or anything like that, but that you and your group at Cal really started getting the ball rolling in the college game. In the pro game, had been going for a little bit already, but really in the college game, because I think a lot of the players at the collegiate level feel that they don't have a voice, that they don't have any control. And obviously now things are changing with NIL and everything like that. So there's a little bit more ownership, from the player's standpoint, where they have some sort of control of the program as well too. But I think that it was such a blessing in disguise, because I think one of the reasons that maybe you weren't getting seen the way you should be seen is because of the environment you were in. And once you went to UW, it just seemed like you became a different goalkeeper.
Absolutely. It definitely did. And I mean, confidence is such a huge element when it comes to goalkeeping. I mean, playing soccer in general, but like as a goalkeeper, you have to have self-confidence. And I mean, when that's being torn away from you every single day and you're just being torn down all the time, it's really hard to perform and come into your own and be the best version of yourself that you can be. So, I think that when I found an environment at UW that was nurturing and supportive and really allowed me to come into my own, I did really turn into a very different player than what I was at Cal. And again, I'm so grateful for the opportunity that I was afforded at UW, because it really changed things around for me. And I would definitely not be where I'm at without the staff and be as supportive as they were. And that was a big turning point. And I think that the culture definitely made a difference in the way that I was able to perform those last 3 seasons versus my first.
Saskia, as a coach, when you see a player that people might not be rating, and I'm not saying people weren't rating you or anything, Liv, but I'm saying might not be rating as highly as they were before, based on, the environment that they're in, do you kind of take that into consideration and go, oh, you know what, maybe this is a better place for them to go? Because I can see what they have and how this place is going to make them go up.
Yeah, and we see that in the pro game, especially. I think even more so, like you'll see players that get traded to another team where they weren't thriving, and then now they're in a new environment, new staff, and things click. And now, like Simone Charlie, and now they're playing the best soccer they've ever played. I mean, that was true for me. Like I was drowning in Philly when I love Philly, but I was drowning in Philly. It didn't click. And when I went to New York, then I finished my career in New York. I was happy.
Oh my God. I just didn't even think about this. There's a parallel thing going on right here. Right here. You guys totally could share stories. Well, I mean, maybe you don't want to share those stories, but you get what I'm saying? You guys can totally empathize with each other.
I mean, mine wasn't as bad, trust me, but I wasn't connected. And and it showed in my play. And I was miserable. And so, but when that trade happened, it changed the end of my career. Like I finished on a high note. I played the best soccer I'd ever played. I found the right, the right team, the right coaching staff and everything. Tom Sermani was my final coach, which was great. He, played against me my entire career. And so it happened. Yes, as a coach, to answer your question, people aren't necessarily going to thrive. Now, this is a different situation. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not, you're not clicking with a team and stuff like that. This is totally different situation. This is just a bad environment. Like, we don't want to get too into it,
Yeah. So Liv, let's move out of the darkness. Let's move into the light, out of the darkness. So, you're no longer in Mordor.
Oh my God, you're such a dork. Nerd.
I just did that reference right there. And now you're in the light with the elves. So at University of Washington, where it rains every day. But you had an amazing junior year there, like really, really amazing junior year there. I know Saskia can attest to it because they played against you guys and you played pretty darn good in that. And now when you had such a good year, did you go, oh, you know what? I am going to take that COVID year, or were you thinking like maybe it's time for me to try to go pro? What were your thoughts?
I've actually been thinking about this a lot more recently, like whether or not I made the right choice to stay. And I think that I did, and I can question it all day long. But the reality is, at the time, leaving didn't even cross my mind, like going pro, because I think in part I was just so grateful to be having a positive college soccer experience, and I felt like I had lost out on that, and I had the opportunity then to sort of have a do-over and make those memories and have those experiences that I didn't get to have previously. And I really wanted that. And like, kind of like you were talking about, like I wanted to end my college career on a high note, and not that season would have been ending it on a high note by any means. But yeah, I think that I still had a lot that I wanted to accomplish. And, the next couple of years didn't go quite as well as that first year, just from like a whole team perspective. But I thought, I had a lot of faith in the team, in the program, and I believed really that we could do awesome things, and I really wanted to continue to be a part of that while I had the opportunity. So like as much as I can hum and haw about it, and hindsight's 2020, it really didn't even cross my mind to leave. Well,
it's funny because when Saskia was at UCLA, Lauren, how do you pronounce the last name properly again? Brisky. Okay, got it. I was going to say Berkey.
Well,
and then
the funny thing is, it's pronounced totally different than it looks like it's spelled.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But she had a similar scenario. Everybody kept saying, "It's like, oh, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do?" And she really, she talked to people like yourself and others, to kind of decide what she wanted to do.
Yeah, and I think she went back and forth with it and everything, and wasn't in the draft at first, and then decided late to go into the draft. But she utilized resources and kind of felt the waters out there and went with the best decision. Yeah. And I had told her, listen, even with this draft, you might not get drafted. And I want you to be ready for that, because it's a weird year, with the international break, not sure where all the teams are, but that doesn't mean you're not going pro at all. And so whether it's in Europe or whether you get a call later today and one of the NWSL teams brings you in, that's a possibility as well.
Totally.
So, and it's important that the players know that, and it's, and like the kids out there that want to go pro know that.
Yeah. And that's a great segue into the topic today, guys. And that is, let's talk about is like post senior year, how do you stay sharp? How do you stay prepared and ready for those opportunities? So Liv, obviously, why don't you kind of,
she's got it down.
I mean,
she knows exactly what
I know.
She got one-way ticket.
I know. she's figured it out. But Liv, why don't you just kind of break down? So senior season ends. Now what happens?
Yeah, after senior season, I took about a week and a half to 2 weeks off, really completely, of soccer, because I just felt seasons is kind of a long haul, and it can be really, really draining. And I'm not a good take a break kind of a person. I'm not good at that, so I kind of had to force myself into it. But really, like, my body needed a break because it's a very grueling thing, and then also my brain just needed a break from soccer a little bit. So I did really minimal for that first couple of weeks. I did yoga, I went on some jogs, went to a spin class, just really did like kind of a reset, and then got down to work after that. So got back into lifting again. I mean, we do some maintenance stuff over season, but again, like, it's nothing crazy. You're not really doing a lot of strength building during that time. And like, lifting is a huge part of my game personally, because I'm very much like a power athlete. And so I got back into lifting again. I started, building up my cardio again and my agility stuff. And then just started working back in the technical stuff and the tactical stuff, just going out with my teammates and getting touches on the ball. And then made plans pretty quickly to come back here to the Keeper Institute, which is 10 out of 10, quick little plug for TKI. I will rep them till the day I die. But so the Keeper Institute is a fantastic facility run by Jill Lloyden that I've been coming to since 2019. And it's really just the best training that I've ever had. It's really unparalleled.
I just saw you send the Venmo right now. So
yeah, right.
Yeah, right. Just a little, that just came in. Thanks, Jill. No, but yeah, it's unparalleled training environment. And, I did, Saskia was just giving me a little slack, but I did buy a one-way ticket out here.
I love that. I love that mentality.
Yeah.
I'm buying a one-way ticket, and then when I figure things out, then I'll fly to that place.
Yeah,
I love that.
exactly. So I figured, if I'm going to be in sort of a holding pattern, trying to figure things out, I might as well be getting the best possible training while I'm doing it. So that's the plan right now. And I'm sticking to it.
I love that mindset though, because the thing is, Saskia, and I'm sure you've had this conversation with players, who've just finished their senior year, is that there's a lot of them that kind of like it's deer in the headlights. They're like, you tell me what to do, Sas,
Right. Yeah, I mean, you have to have a plan in place, especially with this being your future and going pro, and set yourself up. Like for me, whenever I came back from whether it was national team duty or pro, when I was playing in Japan, I always knew what I had set up. I'd go back, I trained with the men at Rutgers, I had my strength and conditioning coaches, I had a lot of coaches. I trained with the track coach. I did everything, but I had that
the basketball coach,
basketball team. I did everything I could to make myself the best athlete as well and well-rounded. But I had that always set up. And so that I did that my entire career. And that was my place to go. Your place is TKI. And that in between things, and even when you go play pro, wherever you land, when you come home in between stuff, you'll probably come back to Jersey.
Absolutely.
And train at TKI. And that's what you have set for you. So all those players out there, you need to set something up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
I love what you're saying about you need to find what works for you to set you up. And obviously TKI is the environment that works for you to set you up. Obviously there's a huge success rate. And the fact that you've been working with professionals there is
absolutely
massive, to be in an environment where you get to train with, like a Michelle Betos or anything like that. It's it's insane. Kaylin Sheridan. I mean, my gosh. Yeah.
I don't know if anybody's heard of her out there, but she's kind of good.
It's all right.
So now you're looking at all these opportunities and everything. So let's say you're a hypothetical, a player who just finished their senior year. And this is the thing I hear from a lot of players, maybe not you, but some players, they go, yeah, I'm looking to play overseas. I'm like, oh, have you ever watched the WSL? Have you ever watched, the Spanish league or anything? No. Okay. You plan on playing in these leagues and you don't know anything about these teams. How are you going to talk to these agents?
Right.
How are you going to know what their needs are?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I've really, really enjoyed watching the European game, especially as it's evolved and as it's gotten so much bigger. I mean, freaking Barcelona drawing 92,000 fans for a game. I mean,
amazing.
It's incredible, and that's one of the draws for me for sure to even go over there is just how rapidly it's growing and how much soccer culture around the women's game is changing. But yeah, no, and I mean, it's been helpful for me too, because I do have some friends that play over there. So it's, getting to watch them is a nice excuse to be able to watch. But yeah, no, I mean, watching the European game is so much fun, and I've really enjoyed it. And again, it's getting televised more now, and it's getting streamed more, which makes it a lot easier. But yeah, no, I think you have to familiarize yourself before you start talking to these agents, before you start talking to people, because they are going to ask you questions about how do you think that you're going to fit in with our style of play, or what exactly are you looking for? You need to know, especially if you're a goalkeeper, you need to know what other goalkeepers they have on staff, and
exactly
what you're looking at.
Yeah, and you can't just come in like you said, Mike, and just be like, hey, I want to play.
Yeah.
You have to have some sort of a direction.
It's not a pickup league.
Right.
Just put me somewhere. Right. So you have to have a mindset and a direction on what you want to go, what league fits for you, and you need to know the teams. You do.
Yeah. Oh, and straight up, I've seen this before. I've seen the arrogance sometimes. Well, I'm an American, I'm going to play.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Well, we were just talking about the fact that I don't think we have an American goalkeeper in the top 5 goalkeepers in the world right now. So
yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And I mean, the other thing is too, with the development of the European game, and I think that England is probably the strictest on it now, but they're really strict when it comes to letting any foreigners into their leagues right now, especially coming from the States. It can be really, really difficult because they're trying to develop homegrown talent, and so that's another obstacle to consider. I have two friends, actually, both from TKI days, playing overseas in England right now, but both of them had to go through smaller leagues over there and play in smaller markets before then they transferred into the Super League. So
because it's hard because you only have a certain amount of international spots, and we've talked about that before. Do you use that pick on a goalkeeper when when you're going for the Kerrs and the people out there, and whether it's trying to get Alex Morgan over stuff? Do you? Yes, of course you go for a goalkeeper because they're essential to your team, and that's going to be our argument. But even when I was going to Japan, we had a big tryout in Virginia. Bunch of players went in, and I didn't get picked.
Yeah.
Like they went with field players, and then I think it was Mandy Clem. Somebody decided they didn't want to go, and then I got invited. But they were like, we have a goalkeeper. We need field players.
Yeah,
and there's nothing I can do about that.
Yeah. Liv, one of the things that I want to know, kind of like, so now that you're in the process of talking to agents and everything like that, like what advice do you give to like young players who are going through that process? Because a lot of them, I've talked to, it's been a very different situation. Some have been like, oh yeah, my coaches have been great, and they've been giving me references and all that stuff, and then I've been connecting with these people that they know or whatever. And then other people are like, I've been on my own. I've just been trying to contact people, cold calling and stuff like that. So what's kind of like your experience been like?
I think it's been a little bit of both. Like, obviously, University of Washington, we had a lot of players in the draft and a lot of players trying to go pro. And so I think that, there were times where my coaches had a lot of balls in the air, but every time I reached out, they were always very responsive and very helpful. But it has been a very self-driven process for me. It hasn't been like, I want to go pro, like do all these things for me, and they just like hand me all this stuff
like
and do everything
phone
for
messages
me.
when you get home.
Right, exactly. It's been very much, like, hey, this is what I'm looking at. I'm declared for the draft. I'm looking at here, but I also am really heavily considering going overseas and stuff like that. And so they'll facilitate that in, giving me resources, but it's been on me to really reach out and try to figure things out for myself for the most part, which, I'm not a stranger to and not opposed to. And I think that, it's a actually very helpful part of the process, and getting to know how everything works and advocating for yourself is a very valuable skill. So that's been kind of my experience, but it is very self-driven. I don't think you can really expect things to just fall in your lap, especially if you're not like a projected top 5 draft pick where people are just going to be coming out of the woodwork to represent you, to draft you, whatever it is. Aside from those very few elite players, I think you have to do a lot of the legwork yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really important to know that. Like, there's a certain amount, very few, that, they are getting their doors knocked on and fought over. And then you do have to do the legwork. I had to do the legwork. And you have to put yourself out there, and you have to give them the product that you want to sell as well. You have to present it and make the right decisions though. And I think it is important, because even Lauren was going through that, where she was trying to find an agent.
Yeah.
And I said, utilize your teammates that are pro, that have gone pro. Give them a call and say, who's your agent, and so on and so, whether it's me official or whether it's, whoever, but utilize those people. And so you have some sort of a connection. So you feel, you can vet somebody properly.
100%. And getting that background information and saying, I reached out to a couple of my former teammates who are now in the pros, and like said, hey, you worked with so-and-so, what was your experience like? Or who is your agent? Because there have been people that I know that have signed with somebody originally, and then after a year or so terminated that contract because they didn't have a good experience. So that's really helpful information to know ahead of time before you get into a contract with somebody. And that's not to say that like, just because she had a bad experience, I would have a bad experience as well, but it's helpful information. So I think another thing is too, so many people, half the way that I've been reaching out to agents is so many people now put their representation in their bios on like social media. So I've just been sending out DM after DM with my highlights, say, hey, this is who I am, this is my highlights. I'm looking to see what's available overseas. Would love to hop on a phone call with you. And that's how I've gotten most of my discussions with agents thus far. So
now, just a question for you in regards to all of that too, because like, do you kind of like research first, like, okay, this is a league that kind of fits what I'm doing, like I think I could really do well in this league, and then look at the clubs that kind of have a need in that league, and then go, oh, who represent these players? Like go on Y Scout and like find out who represents these goalkeepers in this league or whatever, and then reach out to them and be like, hey, you know what? I see this team might have a need, blah, 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 blah. Like, you can tell yourself that way.
I have not done that yet, but I'm definitely doing that when I get home this evening.
Okay. I'm glad I came up with something.
I like it. No, I mean, because honestly, the other thing is too, like I didn't even know that there was like a directory like that. But I mean, when it comes to finding representation, again, if people aren't like knocking down your door, like it's been a lot of me and my other teammates have had similar experiences from what I've heard, like going out and just trying to find whatever's available, because you don't get a lot of information when your senior year's done and you're like, well, I want to go pro. And then it's like, well, I just got to kind of figure it out.
See you later.
yeah. Like, have fun figuring that out. So yeah, I think that, having guidance like that is great. And that's definitely something that I'm going to start doing now. There you go.
What about showcases, like in combines? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Because
I know that's
I've
like a
heard of
business
a
now.
couple.
People get paid to like put these showcases on.
I've heard of a couple. I get a little, and maybe this is like bias from, like my high school days and recruiting. I get a little wary of stuff sometimes, especially if it's like overseas and maybe that it's a money grab or that's not legit. But I think that that's how I got recruited to college, was going to camps and stuff. Like I was again in a similar position where I wasn't having people just like knock down my door, so I had to put myself in front of coaches a lot. So I think that if it's legit, I think it could be a really, really good opportunity.
Yeah, I think the key with that, and especially on the college side of that, the key is to see, so many people have like, those combines, if that's what you want to call it. But look at who's there. Like
100%.
Legitimately look, because they'll give you a list of what college coaches are the coaches that are coaching or that, they're saying are going to be there. Because, if you go overseas or if you go somewhere and none of the coaches that you are the schools that you want to be at or the teams that you want to be there are there, then it's,
And it's a waste
it is
of
a money
time.
grab.
For
Yeah.
sure. For sure.
Yeah. I do think, one of the things with all of that, with the combines, is also it's like what you make of it, Because I think a lot of players, especially in the youth game, and, obviously, I know we're talking about the pro game right now, but just circling back to kind of youth combines, a lot of youth players go like, I don't know, I went to this, or parents will go like, we paid for this college showcase this weekend. Nothing happened. Why didn't you get any letters? Like, what's the deal?
Well, I think the one thing is I think it is important for goalkeepers to go to camps, to combines, to show
100%.
because you cannot count on like showing on your ECNL team at a tournament where the coach is only there. They're only going to see what if you don't touch the ball the whole game.
100%.
What if you don't? What if none of that happens? So get yourself in front of the coaches, whether it's at their camps, whether it's whatever it's at. Get yourself in front of the coaches that the schools you want to see. Now it's different in the pro game,
Right.
So
Yeah,
Totally.
And I guess you're also talking about, when you're talking about the pro game, mommy and daddy aren't involved in this process, or at least they maybe should. Well, hold on.
Okay. I'm like, we have to make the joke. It just went out there, but it depends.
Yeah.
Hopefully your mom and dad leave you alone and they're not involved
for sure
anymore.
Right. Yeah. I'm 24 years old. I should be able to do it myself, but
and I love you out there. But
mom, dad, love you dearly, but I do have to start doing things for myself at some point. So,
I will say this,
like, sweetheart, do you want me to call the coach at Manchester United? I'll talk to him.
No, thanks. It's all good, Mom.
So, Liv, you just brought up a really good point, and Susk, this is so true. This is a kind of an uncharted territory when it comes to college seniors. Liv is 24 years old. She's a young woman. This is a different environment now, where these seniors are coming out, and they're already grown people, as opposed to 22 years old.
Well,
coming out.
Obviously with the COVID years and everything, people getting more, like we have older seniors or grad. So now you have older players going into to go play pro with more experience, and which is great. But you are an adult, and
which is terrifying.
If you were going into the workforce, like the normal workforce, your mom and dad wouldn't be like helping you making calls.
Through the whole thing.
Yeah,
for sure. And I mean, obviously, that's not to say like they're so supportive and do whatever it is that I ask them to do, but I'm at a point in my life for sure. Like I have a master's degree now, which is again terrifying. Shout out COVID, because that gave me time to get my master's degree. But
when are we have very soon, doctor?
Yeah,
Doctor
right.
Goalkeeper.
Right. Jeez, Dr. Goalkeeper. That's great. I like that.
Oh my God.
But
Goalkeeper MD.
Goalkeeper. There it is. That's it.
There you go.
Goalkeeper MD.
GKMD.
Yes.
That's a new series coming out.
I love it.
Yeah,
I
there we
love
go.
it. We just did something.
That should be on the CW.
But yeah, and I mean, honestly, just on a personal level too. I mean, from a logistical standpoint, it makes sense for me to be doing a lot of it myself. But on a personal level, like it feels good to be in a place where I can be making these decisions for myself and feel like I'm more independent. And like you're saying, like if I was going into the normal workforce, my parents would not be involved in every job search opportunity that I was having, and
Unless it was for the U.S. Nationals.
right.
But I think a good point is to show a decision that you made was to get a one-way ticket to New Jersey.
Yeah.
And be here and say, this is where I have to be. A lot of parents would be like, no, honey, come stay at home and you get a goalkeeper trainer. And no, I'm an adult. I need to put myself in the best possible situation and training environment for me. Well, whether that was Jersey or whether that's somewhere else in the world, it is what it is. And as an adult, those are the decisions you have to make.
100%.
I actually had that happen to me years back. Actually, when I was running LA goalkeeping academies, I got an email from a parent about their kid, and wanting to work with them. I said they played a pretty good level, and then I'm not going to say the name of the college. I'm not going to say the name of the kid, but let's just say it was Division I school, and they're preparing for professional combines. And I'm like,
so why are
why are you emailing me? This is like what people do for like their 8-year-olds. Like,
yeah, I was gonna say even in like college recruiting, you should not be doing the emailing.
I know. Did he ask his mom to find a goalkeeper coach in the area? Like it's insane. Or did the mom do that on her own?
But
like
again,
did she Google?
and for a coach and somebody like that, like as a pro coach, I mean, I think we're overblowing.
Yeah.
I don't think parents are really that involved in everything like that.
Not.
I think, but for a pro coach, you're going to be like, what am I getting myself into?
Mhm.
Yeah,
like you want to see independent minds, independent thinkers, people that can adapt.
Yeah.
And know the right environment, the right thing for them, and thrive in it. And those are individual decisions.
Yeah.
100%.
So Scott, I have a question for you, and maybe this will be good advice for Liv, or maybe she's already taken this right now. But obviously you've been in the collegiate environment, you've been in the professional environment. Does your tape change based on that level? Like if you're showing for like to get to college versus you're showing to get to pro, like what do you want to showcase on that tape?
I think the this is going to be funny, but I think the quality, to be honest with you, I think when you're a recruiter and I'm getting like stuff when I was at college, like it's mom and dad in the stands taking a video from 1,000 miles away.
Yeah.
And like now you're a professional. Now you're trying to go pro. You're at TKI. Set up a camera. Do it properly.
Right.
Make it a professional reel, a clip, something real. And young kids can do that as well out there. I always say, can you please send me some training footage? Not just
games
a mile away, and I'm like sitting here like trying to but it's every presentation should be professional. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just thinking like if I'm looking to play professionally, which is not going to happen right now. My back is still hurting from playing 7-a-side a few weeks ago. I still play. Yeah.
That blows me away.
I was supposed to play yesterday. And this tournament down in LA, and I told them I'm at the convention. I couldn't do it. So, and then the other player who's on our team who was a goalkeeper, who played a very good level actually, he wasn't available either. So I don't know who played in goal, but I'm sure it was an adventure.
Right.
But
as good as you, so.
Well, but I was going to say this is that like, do you like go like, okay, wait a second, I want to play at blah, blah, blah. And this is how they play. So I need to show them that versus this other club where like they play like this. So I need to show them that.
Well, you can.
And like have different tapes for different environments.
You know that somebody utilizes like really wants like that 11th player as a keeper, like plays high off their line, really good with their feet and distribution. Then you're going to highlight that in the video you send, but still send everything.
For sure,
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, like, I haven't at this point yet narrowed options down enough to where I'm directly communicating with particular clubs. So like the film that I've compiled for the most part has been pretty general and like broad strokes, but like I did try to include little bits of everything that I've been told by coaches and stuff that they're looking for at the pro level.
Yeah, you just want to be well-rounded.
Exactly.
Really, show that your footwork, your angles, your positioning, your distribution, everything's good. Crosses, the whole 9 yards.
Actually, that's actually a really good point. You can't just be like, hey, I only work at Man City.
Right.
and that's it. And that's it. Like
Sorry.
any other club, sorry, it doesn't work for me. But like I fit what they're looking for at that club.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's a really good point. All right. Well, yeah. All right. You know what? I'm wrong.
It's all right. It's all right.
I'm wrong on that.
Just mumbling over here.
I'm wrong on that one. I think one of the toughest things to do once you get out of the collegiate environment, Liv, is diet, because you no longer have the athletes, dining hall and all that, and you're off on your own. And
Is what?
you bought a one-way
couldn't hear
diet.
It's
Like
diet.
nutrition.
Yeah, nutrition and lifestyle, as is one of the
Absolutely.
pillars of the union.
Well, I think one of the hardest things was you have a lot of free time, believe it or not. And it's managing that.
Wild.
Like when and it's also managing your schedule now, yourself.
Mhm.
So it's your responsibility. You're not on a class schedule
Right.
where you have to be this place, that place. Somebody, you get out of practice, and I would like when I was in New York, I go home to my apartment and I'm just like, okay,
Wild.
and so then I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'll go to the gym again or go out to dinner with friends and everything. But it's different. And to
Yeah.
be able to actually handle that's to be able to really control yourself and what you're doing day in and day out and be the best you can be. Not everybody can do that.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the tough things is yourself, when you're in that situation, is that you're now competing against players that are in that environment right now. Like they do have the nutritionist at the pro club and,
Right.
The performance coach and everything like that. So how can you compete with that player who's in that environment already?
I think that one of the things that I was really fortunate to have at the University of Washington was like a really, really great support staff. And I cultivated really good relationships with a lot of them during my time there. So like my strength and conditioning coach, my nutritionist, even my athletic trainer. I know that I could still reach out to any of them and like get support from them at any point that I needed it. And so like that's a huge resource that I'm going to continue to take advantage of, until especially in this transitional time when things are a little bit crazy.
And that's what I did as well.
Yeah.
Like whether I went back to New Brunswick and stuff like that and kept myself constantly surrounded. But when I was away, like I still had those outlets. I still had those resources. And that's why if you're out there, set yourself up now. Don't wait until it's like after and you're like, oh, what do I do? Start setting those relationships up now, especially if you're in college because you have it.
Totally. It's
You
right
have
there at
those
your
resources.
fingertips for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's, such a really good point because it's about you can't, if you're just going to make excuses, like it's like, oh, well, I don't have this right now. And I don't have this right now. And like when I was in college, I had blah, 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 or whatever. And you're just making those excuses. Then you're going to be, you're not a professional. Yeah. You're defeating yourself before you even get there, or you're justifying why you won't get picked.
Yeah.
You're making excuses.
100%.
Yeah. I do want to ask you about this though, because like I think one of the things, and we talked about mental health a little bit earlier is that this is very much now a process where you're going to be evaluated much like you were in the college recruiting scenario, but now you're a little bit older than you were there. Do you handle it better now that you're an adult?
I think so. I mean, I've always known I'm a very staunch self-evaluator, to put it nicely. I've struggled with being a little bit too self-critical at times. So I've always kind of operated under the assumption that like you can give me whatever criticism it is that you want. I'm always going to be harder on myself in my own head. But I think that actually now compared to when I was going through the high school and college like recruiting process, I have a better perspective on things and I'm able to separate, criticism from my self-worth a little bit better. Like, I mean, soccer is still my life's passion and like what I want to do with as much of my life as my body will allow me to. But, I think that it's not in high school. It was like the end all be all, the most important thing in my entire world. And I think that I let things get to me a little bit more than I do now. I think I'm better at separating and compartmentalizing things and recognizing, feedback for what it is, which is helpful information.
Well, I mean, a good example is the draft.
Absolutely.
Not getting drafted
Or being
outright.
evaluated 1 to 4 in front of 200 people
Or that.
at a
And
demo
how to
session.
handle that. Maybe when you were younger, that crushing in a sense,
Absolutely.
or something. And how do you rebound? But now you're like, okay, what's my next step? one foot in front of the other. Okay.
Right.
And like I said, when I saw you, I was like, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, and that comes with growing up, and that's part of the process.
100%. And I think, again, when I was in high school, and I kind of made a joke about it earlier, that like my college career did not go at all how I would have planned it and how I would have told you that it was going to go when we were last on this podcast. But like, I think that whole experience really showed me that just because something doesn't look exactly the way that you plan it out doesn't mean that it's not going to be great.
Yeah.
You know, like I never would have anticipated that I was going to transfer, and it ended up being one of the best decisions, like I said, that I ever made. And the whole process, even the ugly parts, really made me stronger and a better player than I think I would have been had I just had a smooth sailing 4, 5, whatever years at one institution. And, you know, I think that all of that has prepared me for right now to recognize that, yeah, like in a perfect world, I would get drafted and go have the incredible career in the NWSL and like basically hit no roadblocks, whatever. But that's not realistic. I mean...
It's not realistic for anybody, even the best players out there.
It's not realistic for anybody to just expect smooth sailing. And I think that now, again, having been through what I've been through, I'm a lot more prepared for the speed bumps. Like my head coach, Nicole Van Dyke, always said at University of Washington, speed bumps, not roadblocks. So it's speed. I'm better prepared for the speed bumps. And I'm able to better recognize that, like things not going to plan does not mean the end of the world or the end of the path. It's just wasn't meant to be for me for whatever reason.
You know, and that happens in everything. I mean, you know, things didn't go as planned for me at USC. But what did that present to me? Now I'm doing what I always wanted to do.
Exactly.
2 days later, I get a phone call and I'm broadcasting. And that's really what I wanted to be doing. Now, it's not a roadblock, it's a speed bump, you know, like you said. And that's going to happen no matter what you're doing in life.
Yeah.
You know, and so to be adult enough to be able to understand that now, it's just going to help you. You're the kind of player a coach wants on the team.
Exactly.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? This is the mentality that is needed.
Right.
I feel like this is like good affirmation for me too, because like it wasn't a roadblock. It wasn't a roadblock. The fact that the light wasn't working, it was a speed bump.
Right. It doesn't mean the end of the road.
It doesn't mean the end of the
it's not gonna
podcast. It just
happen.
means it's just a
means you
darker
gotta
podcast.
figure out another way.
It's just we're just gonna have to brighten it in post. Is what that is.
There's always another way.
And speaking of intangibles, though, Liv, I want to talk about this as we start wrapping everything up. Is that's a tough thing to really show scouts, like the intangibles. You know, so how? Because that's something I know that was frustrating for me. It was like, yeah, but like, I know I'm 5'8" and a quarter on a good day, but I have all these intangibles, and let me. How can I show you these intangibles? Type of a thing. You know, Sus, do you have any advice for players? You know, who kind of, I don't want to put you on the spot there, Liv, with that. You know, who are kind of like, you know, there's certain facets of my game that I feel like you can't really get on camera. No.
Well, I think part of it is this. If I was a coach right now and we're sitting down and having a meeting, an interview in a sense and everything, and you presented yourself the way you are, like that to me says something. I am looking at that. I am looking at the answers to your questions and how you've handled adversity and being open and honest about it. And, you know, your speed bumps and not your roadblocks and everything. I'm listening to that. And that's like, okay, this is the kind of player I want. And that is a way to get it done.
Yeah. That's a good point. And I was also just even thinking about just in regards to like, if you know what your need is for your club, and like you're like, oh boy, this is the type of player we need in our locker room. Like that could be like
and
a very
totally a lot. When we were talking with the coaches, we had all the interviews with different teams, and you heard a lot of that. Like, what kind of players is going to be in the locker room, and how are they going to fit with the team, not on the field as well as off the field and stuff. And that is something that is very important, huge.
Yeah. I mean, and I was just thinking about just a matter of like, let's say, you know, you go to, you know, Chelsea and, you know, they've got an established number one as an international for their country or whatever type of a thing. You know, are you going to be like, you know, I should be playing blah, blah, blah. Or are you going to be like the type of player that like, she's going to be like, you know, hey, I love working with Liv because Liv is always pushing me at training, you know, and this is the environment we want, blah, blah, blah. And then you get that reputation and you now all of a sudden you have longevity in the league because, you know, whether you're a starter or a reserve player, that's not up to you. And a lot of times in your career, you're not just going to be a starter the whole time. You're
No,
gonna-
listen, if you're tagged as a problem child, it stays with you, and it's not what you want.
yeah.
Totally. And you're not going to get put up for opportunities. Like people are going
You're
to
not.
want to help you out
We
and want
talk.
to work for you.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we all talk.
If you have a good reputation as being a good teammate and being a positive influence in the locker room. So
Well, Liv, we're gonna try to post this as soon as possible to get as many scouts watching
love
this
it.
podcast
Let's do it.
to get the information on you. If people want to connect with you, whether it's players out there who are maybe going through the same process or younger
Absolutely.
players that want some
coaches
advice
or teams.
or
Yeah.
teams or coaches that want to connect with you because they're interested in you coming in for a trial, where's the best place for them to reach?
Social media is always good. I'm at liv_Sekany on pretty much every platform. And yeah, my DMs are always open for coaches and opportunities like that. But also, like you're saying, for players or for younger players that just are going through it and want somebody to talk to, I'm always around. I've had people do that for me in the past and be mentors for me and really get me through some hard stuff. And so any way that I can pay that forward, I'm always down. So always.
Maybe you could do like a
DMs are open.
vlog for like the union
Awesome.
or something like that, like a positive affirmation blog or
I'd be
something like
down.
that.
I could do that.
I like that.
Yeah, isn't that be kind
I
of
like
a cool?
It
They could be
sounds
in,
like you need it.
in the nutrition and lifestyle section. That
Yeah,
could be
right?
really cool. Look at
I
that.
like that, though. I like that.
No.
I think that's a great idea.
And obviously, guys, if you want to reach out to us, you can do it over on the Union at Goalkeeper Podcast, or you can reach out to Saskia Weber directly at S Weber on the Union, or me at Michael Magid on the Union. If you're not on there yet, guys, I don't know what you're doing. It is free. There's no excuse. Go on there. It's better than TikTok. It's better than Twitter. It's better than Instagram because they don't pay us. So no, I'm totally kidding. We love this. It's because it's for us. It's for us. It's for the goalkeeping community. We engage, we educate, we entertain each other. It's not somebody running through a fire of the hula hoop. Although I would love to see Lev go. I thought that was going to be one of the demos tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Oh no, yesterday.
It felt like it.
Yeah. There was one demo yesterday. What was it that you guys did? You had to shuffle, touch the cone, and then fly?
Yeah, I told
Oh.
you.
It was
PTSD from conventions.
Oh, it was on that lovely turf.
Oh,
that is-
but yes,
it's a
that's-
super thin turf rolled out over the carpet that's on top of like concrete
And
or whatever it
they're
is.
still doing the same thing.
It's
30
nuts.
years ago, I was doing the same thing.
Nuts. One of the girls that I was doing it
You
with
thought it
turned
would
to
get
me and
better.
she was like, this is not worth getting hurt for you. Do not do this if you don't feel like you can do this. And I was like,
Exactly. I told you.
Well, his
Yeah.
activity was like, he's like, I'm going to throw the ball as far as possible.
he was like, we're
And
gonna
catch
do
it.
diving now. We hadn't dove all training
Yeah,
yet. And he was like, okay, now you're gonna shuffle and you're gonna he had one of us like stand out with our hand out and then you had to go high five him and then just he was
and just
throwing
go
it
on a
upper
carpet
90
on cement.
upper 90.
On
Yeah.
a carpet
I
on
was like,
cement.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh man.
What
So
a guy.
maybe Holland's a good choice for them.
Maybe.
Hey, I love it. I'm half Dutch.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, should,
I'm not picky. I'll go anywhere.
you'll go anywhere. Just remember next time that if you go to Holland that you have to wear all that
I'm gonna wear
protective
all the
gear
padding.
Yeah.
Give me
For all
some
that
of the-
diving.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
that
the
diving.
convention is the reason padding was invented.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Oh my gosh. Well, guys, contact at InsideThe18media.com if you have a guest suggestion or a topic suggestion. That is all the time on Inside the 18, and we are out. Later, guys. Whoop.